Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji.
Welcome, everyone, to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. Spiritual teachers as a concept tend not to be quite so controversial. If you want to learn math, you go to a math teacher. You want to learn science, you go to a science teacher. You want to learn piano, you go to a piano teacher. You want to embark on a spiritual path, you go to a spiritual teacher. It makes perfect sense. The dilemma that people face is when we actually start talking about gurus, because the concept holds such a wide and vast amount of meaning and connotation, and some positive, some not positive. Then it's so loaded that I want to take that on rather than go the easy way of spiritual teacher. Because actually the truth is a guru is more than a spiritual teacher. And the example that I always give on this is a teacher can teach you something. A guru actually gives you the experience. And so if you were learning oceanography from an oceanography teacher, you would learn everything there was to know about life under the ocean. But your clothes would still be dry. And if you were learning oceanography from a guru, you'd still learn about the ocean, but you'd be gasping for breath, and your clothes would be soaked. And so teachers can teach us about peace, and about our own divine nature, and about the soul, and about love. But what a guru does is actually gives us the experience of that. The word guru literally means, the Sanskrit definition literally means the one who removes the darkness and brings light. And this is why it's so important, because, as I was just saying, God is there. The divinity is there. Peace is there. It's not something you've got to find in some corner of the world, or something you've got to manufacture in a science laboratory. It's there. It is our nature. It is the core of who we are. It's the truest, deepest aspect of who we are. So why is that which we are seeking the most? Why do we feel so far from it? Because we live in darkness. Not darkness of badness, which is an important distinction, as we have so many people from the West as well as Indians sitting here. In the West, when we think about darkness, and I know just very personally when in my life I had thought about my darkness, it was always a darkness that was very core to who I am. Like capital I, capital am. The darkness was who I am. It was me. And yeah, maybe by chance there was some divine being who could wave a magic wand and turn me, dark being, into light being. But that's not actually what the Indian spiritual philosophy means when they talk about darkness. the core of who we are is actually light, is actually pure, contrary to what so many of us have been raised, not consciously, not maliciously, but we've just sort of absorbed by cultural osmosis, you could say. I mean, there's nobody saying to you, you are dark. I mean, maybe, but not that many, thankfully. But we do all tend to really absorb it. So the light that so many of us look for is the light that's going to make me okay. That's going to make me not so dark inside. Whereas actually, if we go deep enough, what we find is the light is there. The darkness is the darkness that has covered the light. So the light is at the core. The darkness is that on top of it, which is that which says, I'm this body. All the wrong things it's done, all the time it's wasted, all the opportunities it's lost, all the things it's failed at. I am the things that have happened to this body. I am my neuroses, I am my illnesses, I am my parents' neuroses, I am my parents' illnesses, right? And I am this or I am the child of that. They're all aspects of our identity. And that's the darkness. It's ignorance. It's what blocks us from knowing who we are and living as the truth of who we are. And so what the Guru does, it's not the magic wand of I take you who art dark and make you light. I take you who art impure and make you pure. But I take you who are light but don't know it and remove the darkness of ignorance from you so that you can see your own light. And can it happen without a guru? In theory, yes. There's nothing that says you must have a guru. The spiritual history of the Indian spiritual traditions, the Hindu spiritual traditions, as well as so many of the world's spiritual, mystical traditions, have examples of sages and mystics who have experienced it spontaneously. But on a personal level, it's a risk I wouldn't want to take. I mean, if someone said, do it this way, you've got a really good chance of finding the light. Do it that way, yeah, you could find it. 1890, there was, someone, he was born and he found it. And, 1730, someone else was born and he found it. The odds are not the odds that if I had a choice I would go with, especially given that we have gurus. If we didn't have any and we had no option, then sure, you hold those sages and mystics as the ideal and say, you bless me, show me how you did it. But when we have gurus, why not? I mean, if you had to get across an ocean and your choice were get in a boat with someone who knows how to sail or figure it out yourself. Yeah, I mean, you could figure it out yourself. You could channel the art of sailing. You could become one with the wind. I'm sure on a very, very deep spiritual level it's possible. But if my life mattered to me and I had the option of getting in a boat with someone who knew how to sail, I would take that option every time. Just increases your chances of making it across. So the last piece, though, that you've asked of how to know. And this is where it gets tricky because there is no cookie cutter answer. It's not like, well, here's what gurus look like, and here's the litmus test. They come in all shapes and sizes, genders, nationalities. A couple pieces, though, to give you. The first is, you're going to feel something inside. in the presence of a guru. When you experience that light, you feel something. But now here's a subtle but important aspect. Sometimes charisma masquerades as truth. And there is also a feeling that you get in the presence of a charismatic leader that is different than truth. It is the same thing that, got so many otherwise good, peaceful people into lynch mobs we could go throughout history and see what charismatic leaders have gotten otherwise well-meaning, good people who followed them to do. And it doesn't mean the people were stupid. It doesn't mean the people were bad. It just means that charisma itself is also very magnetic. And if we're not really paying attention, we can mistake charisma for truth. Especially when there's a crowd mentality, when there's lots of people saying, oh, isn't this great? Isn't this great? Isn't this great? Isn't this great? And you get swept up in the charisma of the moment. And this is where it's really important to check in and make sure that even when you're sitting in your room alone, minus the crowd, minus the presence of the leader, what you experience is the presence of the light, not a longing for the crowd. It's not, oh God, it was so great 2 hours ago when we were all together. But wow, my light's been turned on. And even though I'm now crowdless, charismaless, I can still feel it and can still see. And that's the first piece I would give you. And the second piece that I would give you is the more someone tries to convince you that they are the right guru for you, the faster I would run in the other direction. The real gurus are doing this for us, not for themselves. They're not attached to the number of people they accumulate. They're so connected to source that, oh, no crowd today? Great, it's just me and God. And that fills them with joy. It's not, where's my crowd? They're giving you energy, not sucking your energy. And so if you find someone trying to convince you that they are the only, they are the best, they are the right ones, I would run in the other direction. When I first came to Rishikesh, before I had met Puja Swamiji, in the week or so that I was living in a hotel before moving in here, we had met a wandering sadhu. And this by no means is to turn you off the wandering sadhus. I'm sure many of them are very divine and wonderful. We happened to meet one who was of a sort of interesting sort. And he spoke some English and he said, come and sit with me. And we had nothing else to do. And so we said, sure. And so we went and sat with him. He didn't live at Parmarth Niketan. He lived downriver. He had a little room. And he would sit on his bed and we would sit on the floor and he would tell us things. And after the first day or so, he explained that it was customary to bring boxes of sweets when you go to see the guru. And so we were expected the next day to show up with boxes of sweets. But that was okay. I mean, that was part of the adventure. It was fun, sure. So we'd go to the market and we'd buy a box of sweets and then we'd go and we'd show up and give him the sweets. And this went on for a few days, and it seemed really harmless, and and after I met Puja Swamiji, and I was, for those of you who don't know my whole story, I'm not going to share it at the moment, but I was living in those days in just this state of ecstasy. I mean, I had been touched by something very, very special. And so it was just everything was God and everything was beautiful and everything was perfect, including buying sweets and sitting on the floor beneath the bed of this man who spoke to us. And so once I met Pujya Swamiji, though, and had many other even bigger and deeper spiritual experiences and was permitted to move into Parmarth, we stopped going, of course, to this man, but bumped into him one night in the market and said, guess what? I mean, I was just ecstatic. I had met Pujya Swamiji. I didn't even know the word guru at that point, but I had met him, and I was sharing with the sadhu that I had met him, and I was so blessed, and I was allowed to move into Parmarth Niketan, and he went ballistic. And you can't do that. You're my disciples. I mean, literally started yelling at us in the market. And we had to really, hands on shoulders, calm him down. Now, I share this because obviously it's not always going to be quite so dramatic. They're not necessarily going to always chase you through a marketplace, screaming, you're my disciples. But if you get just the feeling of being chased, even if it's not literally being chased, if you get a feeling of someone saying, no, you can't go there, I knew you first, this is really when you walk in the other direction. Whether you have found something specific to walk toward or not, don't worry, it will come to you. I happen to have something I was walking toward. But even if you don't worry. It will come.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single...
Join us here on the holy banks of Mother Ganga, in the lap of the towering and beautiful Himalayas, for our annual International Yoga Festival, taking place from March 1st to March 7th every year. Come, join your global yoga family in a true union of yourself with your divine self. We look forward to welcoming you all. You can go to the website on www.internationalyogafestival, all one word, .org. Look forward to welcoming you all home to the banks of Mother Ganga.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Alaya, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit rain.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. What is the importance of nectar in our body? It's a very interesting question. Nectar, when we speak about it in an Indian spiritual standpoint, we use terms like amrit, sacred, divine nectar. which is literally the juice, the essence in our bodies and in our lives. But also when you speak about pran, which is our life force, or when you speak about ojas, which is also the sacred force, the energy of the body, these are also sometimes referred to as nectar. So I'm going to take them collectively. Well, the importance of it is it's what gives us life. Pran is literally our life force. So when the soul departs the body at death, we talk about the pran leaving the body, the breath leaving the body. When statues, deities in Hindu temples when they're done being sculpted by the artist and they are installed in the temples, there's a ceremony called the pran pratishtha, which is actually a very, very sacred, scientific, many-day-long, intricate ceremony of literally breathing life, breathing pran into the statue. And that's why, as a very quick but important diversion, people think that Hindus worship idols, and the Hindus always say, no, we're not worshiping idols. See, actually, the sacred breath has been brought into this. This is not an idol. This is the divine, who has been gracious enough to come into this form. But with the pran pratishtha ceremony, with the bringing in the breath, it literally goes from being a statue to being a deity, an image of the divine, a holder of the divine, a way of us to access the divine. So on the one hand, it's literally our life, our physical life. You need it to be alive. Go a step deeper. We'll begin with the most physical, grossest level. Pran is life. You have it, you have a lot of life. You don't have it, you no longer have life. You may have a body, but you no longer have life. Take it a step more subtle. Because the pran is not only physical life. It's also the quality of our inner life. And that's where it's slightly distinct from breath. The translation, the literal translation of pran is not just breath. So it's not simply oxygen. It's actually an energy and a power and a life force that comes in. So it's deeper than simply oxygen. And therefore it determines the quality, which is where you have practices like pranayama. How do we use the breath? Not just to expand our lung capacity. I mean, it's not about how long can you hold your breath underwater. It's not about how much can you fill your lungs, although that's wonderful. Oxygenating our cells is fantastic for keeping them healthy. But it's deeper than that. Pranayama is actually a method of using the breath to attain oneness with God. This is where, when it comes in the 8 limbs of yoga as given by Patanjali, it's part of the path to samadhi. It's part of the path to that ecstasy, that union with the divine. So the pran is that which we can use to connect with the divine force within us. Ojas, and of course we could go all night on this, but I want to just make sure that we have time for other questions. Ojas, again, is our energy. The the energy in the body, the light in the body, that which fuels us, that which keeps us going on a literally very physical level. There are practices about learning to contain your ojas. You know, one of the questions that I get all the time, being an orange-robed sannyasi, which is a path of celibacy, one of the questions I get all the time is, why celibacy? Why do you need to be celibate? And of course, the tradition, the spiritual tradition, is filled with innumerable examples of non-celibate rishis who were householders, who were enlightened, who were incredible gurus and masters. And so there's nothing that says thou shalt be celibate, unless you've taken vows of celibacy, of course. But the teaching of celibacy and the reason for it on the very, very committed and deep and I don't want to use the word sacrifice, it's got such a negative connotation, but a path of spirituality in which it's spirituality above all else, spirituality before all else. On that path, one of the critical reasons for celibacy and why it's such a core component is because it's believed that sex is one of the things that depletes our ojas. Which is why even married couples, even people who are not celibates, who are not sannyasis, are always instructed by spiritual masters. Like, use this carefully. This is not just whenever, wherever, however, at any time, whenever, the urge hits. That energy is precious. And if you lose it, as it is believed you do in sex, that has very, very significant ramifications on both your physical health and your emotional and spiritual health. So that's not all that ojas is, but that's one very important aspect of it. Is it's the juice that runs us, that keeps us able to stay healthy, to stay energized, to stay full of light. Then we speak lastly about Amrit, that nectar, that juice, and that's really that which flows through us. We speak a lot about ras, spiritual juice. And you'll hear Pujya Swamiji sometimes very sweetly talk about how life should be juicy. And it's something he says very, very frequently, and everybody giggles a little bit. But the meaning of that really is your life should be filled with nectar, with ras, that it shouldn't be dry. You could have a physical body. Food fills a physical body. Medicine takes care of a physical body. Clothes protect a physical body. But if you don't have that juice, then you may have days in your life, but not life in your days. And so nectar is really that which brings the juice to life. And so on all of those levels, it's crucial, whether you want to be just physically healthy, whether you want to be spiritually full of light, whether you want to be deeply grounded in your practice, whatever level it is, nectar is critical. And this is where we come to spiritual places. It's not the only way to get nectar, of course. Fortunately, by grace, it's available in so many ways. meditation, prayer, chanting, yoga, service, love. It's all around us. It's all around us. But this is where it's so important to take it in so that our lives can really be, as he says, juicy, juicy.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Join us here on the holy banks of Mother Ganga, in the lap of the towering and beautiful Himalayas, for our annual International Yoga Festival, taking place from March 1st to March 7th every year. Come, join your global yoga family in a true union of yourself with your divine self. We look forward to welcoming you all. You can go to the website on www.internationalyogafestival, all one word, .org. Look forward to welcoming you all home to the banks of Mother Ganga.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. The presence of negativity in our life, regardless of whether it's a parent, a spouse, a good friend, the coworker in the cubicle next to you, the neighbor who pops on over every day, right? That presence of negativity is very difficult. And in some of those relationships, we have a choice of how much to take in terms of their actual presence in our life. In some of them, we don't. But we do have a choice in all of the relationships of how much of their version of reality to take in. Just because someone's a parent doesn't mean that you have to automatically subscribe to their version of reality. Yeah, it grates on you. And you have the right, regardless of the relationship, even child to parent, you have the right as your own being to say, this conversation is very difficult for me. Can we change it? Isn't it a beautiful day? Look at those flowers. Not with negativity, not with saying, oh my God, Mom, your dad, you're so negative. Listen to me, your spiritual daughter, teach you how to live. Right? Doesn't usually work very well. So you've got to be sure to do it from a place of total clarity within yourself. Because a lot of times what happens with our parents is we're so plugged into them internally that their way of thinking literally gets us inside. And so we need them to change for us. And that's also not fair to do to them. That's where our work is so important. Yeah, it would be easy if we could all make our parents change so that being with them was easier. But A, not going to happen. B, that's not the highest goal, because who are you going to keep making change in your life? Your parents, your spouse, your coworker, your neighbor. The goal is, how can I, and it's hardest with parents, but if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere. How can I unhook myself? Not from loving you, not from the relationship, but from your way of thinking and being. Anytime you think you've really hit enlightenment, go spend a week in your parents' house. And what's so wonderful about it is it really shows you what work you've still got to do. You know, if you've ever had a filling in your tooth, I had chipped a tooth and had to get a filling crown put in there last summer. And they do something really interesting. After they do it, it's all set. Before they let you go, they put this little blue, it looks like carbon paper, in between the teeth, and they say, grind all around, and you go. And then they pull it out, and then they look, and then they file a little more, and then they make you grind again, and what that paper is doing is staining your teeth in the place where, when you bite down, the bite isn't right. And so they know, they have to, file it down a little more. Spending a week at your parents' house is like that for your sadhana. You want to see where those spots are? It's literally like that blue paper. Okay, I guess I still have some issues around this because, oh my God, that just pushed my buttons so much that, even though I don't drink, I find myself headed to the nearest pub. Whatever it may be. I don't smoke, but I really need a cigarette. That's a signal for you. That's for you to, okay, I got to do some more work here. This is where we've got to file it down. The goal is not, how do I change them? So it's not like me saying to the dentist, my God, don't you have any paper that doesn't stain my teeth? Right? You see where that would defeat the purpose. Yeah, I would have blue stain-free teeth. But I would walk out with a bite that ultimately would end up causing a lot more problems in my jaw, in my muscles, all the way down into my neck and back. So those blue stains are for me to know, okay, this is the work. So you use them. Use them. Let your parents be, for God's sakes. If they change at this time of their life, great for them. But most of us are at an age where they've really already done a lot for us. Our moms carried us for 9 months. They fed us. They cleaned our poop for a long time. Regardless of everything else that they did, they've really done a lot for us. Most of our parents put us through school. Most of us had warm clothes in the winter time. They've done a lot. And it's now a time in our life to say, okay, I don't need to come back to you with, now I need you to change the very nature of who you are. When we were a kid, it was like, oh, Mom, no, I don't want the peanut butter on the toast. I wanted butter on my toast. Mom, make me a different piece of toast. Mom, make me a different sandwich. No, I don't want to eat spinach. Well, you've gone beyond that now. Let them be. Stop with, you've got to change this, do this differently. Unhook yourself from that. Because as long as you're hooked in, you're still where he was coming from. You're hooked in because they are the omnipotent, omniscient voice of truth, voice of safety, voice of security, voice of the very nature of who you are. No. They are not. They are people. Like we're all people. And they're doing their best, like we're all doing our best. And if you can just really recognize they're not the all-knowing, all-powerful, all that what they say has to go into every cell of your being. Okay, they're negative. Fine. Let them be negative. Doesn't mean you have to be negative. But the minute that you turn around and get negative about their negativity, you've just grown it. You've just grown it. I can't tell you how many conversations I had with my mom in my early years of spiritual practice of saying, Mom, just calm down. I am calm. What do you mean? Well, that didn't work very well. And then you think, well, all right, where did that get us? Who was that beneficial for? No one. And so you learn to move through it in a different way. Don't tell me to be calm. Okay. And then you have to look at yourself. What's my attachment to telling her to calm down? Why do I need her to calm down? If not calming down is fine for her, why is it bothering me? Why does it bother me? Why am I so troubled by it that I need her to change how she's being? And that's where life starts to get interesting. When you start looking at yourself. Why does it bother me so much? Why does it trigger me so much? Why does it plug into me so much? And that's the opportunity that we have to grow. So use them. Use it to grow. And doesn't mean that you have to live every day of the rest of your life there. Right, of course. Like you eventually get out of the dentist chair. You do it. You do it for the relationship, because the relationship is important. And you take it as sadhana, to learn about yourself. To learn how to love without needing people to be a certain way for us to love them. And then here's the bottom line of that. That's what changes them. That's what changes them. Now, you can't do it to change them. Come on, I've been so good and loving. Like, why haven't you changed yet? Sadhvi, you said you would change if I would just be, good and loving. No. But when you are, it actually changes them. Because what it does is it creates space for them. Nobody wants to be negative. Nobody thinks it's really fun to be cranky and grumpy and negative, criticizing. It's nobody's idea of a good time. Nobody wants to fight with their children or their spouses. Nobody wakes up and says, my God, today's a really boring day, I know. I'm gonna pick a fight with my kid. I know just how to push her buttons. It'll be really fun. Who needs TV? Nobody thinks like that. It happens because of what they're struggling with, because of their human karmic path. And the more space you can create for them, and just be there, and be unhooked you, loving, caring, but unhooked. However they are, fine. They're your parents. That creates space for them also then to change, should they want to. Because that's also their choice.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. This is the nature of the mind as it intersects and interacts with the creation, the physical world around us. And so we are the soul, we are spirit, we are consciousness. And I'm throwing all of these words out not as semantic distinctions, but as different words because you all come from different cultures, and one of them is going to work with you. So whichever of them works with you, that's perfect. So we are soul, we are spirit, we are divine, we are consciousness. We have a body. But the mind misidentifies self as body. And so rather than saying, oh, wow, thanks for giving me this great healthy body and functional legs and functional arms and to be able to move through the world and experience the world and see myself, my true self, so I can actually experience the divinity of who I am. Instead of looking at it like that, of thanks for this body I'm going to use. I'm going to use my arms for one thing, my legs for something else, my brain for something else. Instead of that, we look at it and we say, this is who I am. I am this body. And that is seen as the source of all suffering. Is that misidentification. The problem is it's rampant, it's pervasive, it's epidemic, it's everywhere you look, and it's even in the nature of your own mind. So it's not a matter of, well, if I could just, shut off the TV commercials and not see any billboards, and then I'd be okay. It's the nature of the mind. This is when we speak about illusion, about Maya. or samsara. You know, these terms come in when we talk about it because we get pulled into that illusion. We get pulled into that life. And this is where we keep re-reminding ourselves. This is why we meditate. It's why we come to spiritual places. It's why we do as much of this as we can. It's why we train our minds. The meditation is not just a reprieve. The meditation is not just like a hot bath and now I feel peaceful and calm until I go back to work tomorrow and then I'm going to be all stressed out again. The meditation actually trains the mind. So the more you do it, the more you remember. Like if you were learning to play the piano, the more times you play a song, the easier it is. You get a new job in a new area of town, well, you've got to, look at directions of how to get there. Once you've had that job for a few years, you could drive yourself from home to the office blindfolded, basically. You've trained yourself. It's become your nature. This is why we meditate. It's why we pray. It's why we spend time in spiritual places with spiritual people, doing things like satsang, doing things like arti. It's why we do seva, to remind us that which I am doing is in service, is not for me. Because usually in most of our lives, my spiritual practice is all inside me. It's when I'm sitting on a cushion or I'm sitting on a mat. And then everything that I'm doing off the cushion, off the mat, in the world, is perpetuating that illusion. So whether it's in my relationships, whether it's in my job, whether it's in my social circles, whether it's in, the changing rooms at department stores, trying on clothes, whatever it is, that which I'm doing reinforces this false identity. You are the body. You are your role. You are your title. You are your career. You are your socioeconomic status. You are how that guy in the bar just looked at you. You are all of these things. And this is why we keep bringing ourselves back to our spiritual practice as much as we can. The internal practice and the external practice. It's why we do seva. Whether you can do it full-time or part-time, whatever it is. But we do it to remind ourselves that there isn't this distinction, that which I do also, eyes open off the mat, off the cushion, in the world, that's also part of my spiritual practice. It's not about, how I look in the mirror of the dressing room. It's not about how this person looked at me or that person looked at me. It's not about where I am on the socioeconomic ladder or the social ladder. When I'm doing seva, it's all about service for growth, spiritual growth. Service for others, yes, of course. But service for my spiritual growth as well. And so that's where we do all of these things, to keep reminding ourselves as much as we can. It's why we try to spend time with spiritual people. I mean, if your entire friend circle says, my God, did you gain weight over the weekend? It's going to be really hard to keep being in soul. But if you've got a friend circle that's on that same path, well, that's going to make it much easier. It's the importance we talk about Sangha, the people we hang out with. If what they're talking about is your body and how much do you make, and you're going to stay stuck in that. But if the people you're with are on spiritual paths. Even if they're paths that are different than yours, it doesn't matter. As long as there's that focus, it's going to be a lot easier. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week. And I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.